BaOmer is the day that we reclaim ourselves, our true selves, our deeper essence. It's an interesting thing. We say God's name a lot. You notice that? I hope you noticed it, because we say God's name a lot, and it's important to notice. God's name that we pronounce, Aleph, Daled, Anun, and Yud, Adoy, and then Noi. But it's not written that way. How is it written? A Yud and a Hey and a Vav and a Hey. So the Gemara says, Loi kishem shani nichtav ani nikra. Not in the same way that I'm written, am I spoken. Ani nichtav, I'm written, b'yud kei vav kei. Aval ani nikra, but I'm said, Aleph Dal Nun Yud. So what's the idea? We say one thing, but we think another thing. We say Adoy and then Noi, but we think Yud Kei Vav Kei, a Yud and a Hey and a Vav and a Hey. We don't pronounce Yud and a Hey and a Vav and a Hey. We only think it. So what are we saying? Saying is what's revealed. Saying it's what you see on the surface. Saying is what comes out. What does Aleph Daled Nun Yud mean? It means a master, a king. God, you're the king of the world. What is the relationship to a king? In a certain way, simply it's obedience. The king decrees and we have to listen. Now, a good king, we trust his decrees are for our good. But it's not like I'm chummy with the king, like we're all buddies. It's not like when I wake up in the morning, the king is part of my day-to-day activities. All I have to know is that am I doing things within the rubric of the king's decrees? The king lives in the palace somewhere. The king is an external force. I can become close to the king in so much as I'm obedient to his dictates. Now, in order to run a kingdom, you need to have a king with dictates that people are following. And if you trust that the king is doing things for the good, then following the dictates will only do well for you. But still, the king is outside of me. When I go to work, I'm not thinking about the king. I might see his picture on the money, or I might see some soldiers, but he doesn't come into my thoughts when I decide whether I should stop at the smoothie store on the way home from work or not. All I think about is, am I breaking the law or not? There's a relationship that we have with Hashem where Hashem is the king. The king means we have to listen to what the king says. There's halacha. Halacha means that I'm the king and I'm a melech, and that there's an obedience. And because we proclaim that the king understands and has our best will in mind, so we follow the ratzon of the king. We follow his ratzon. And we say, long live the king. The king is helping us. Shachris is good for us. Mincha is good for us. Tefillin is good for us. These things are good for us. But the king is still distant. There's me and there's a king. Then there's another type of relationship that we have with Hashem. That relationship is that we realize that there's no me and God as two separate things. We realize that all of existence is God. Hardcore monotheism. Yud Kei Vav Kei, which means existence. The was, is, and forever will be. Literally the unification that me, the creation, can realize that there's nothing but you, God. And every single second is an opportunity to connect to you. Not that there's a king and there's me, and I just have to make sure to follow within the rubric and follow the orders of the palace. But that there's nothing but you, Hashem. This is more of the relationship between a husband and wife. That a husband and wife are two people that are wanting to unify on such a deep level that they're thinking about each other essentially at all times, that they're in the home together, that every decision is taking into account one's wife. When I come home from work and decide to get a smoothie, I don't think about the king. But when I come home from work and stop at the smoothie shop, of course, not, Shemitah problem, smoothie, the Shemitah one. So I'm thinking about, maybe she'd like a smoothie also. Maybe she needs me. Maybe I shouldn't stop right now. Maybe I'll get something at home. You're all the time, how can I do something? Maybe she doesn't want a smoothie at all, but I could get her something else. That type of relationship of a husband and wife is all the time, everything is considering one to the other and the other to the one. It's totally a unification of two people. So what is the light of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai? The light of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai is Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. Is the light that every single moment in my life to think about Hashem. Every single moment in my life is some relationship of bonding, getting back to Hashem. And that's a relationship that's a very deep inner relationship. That's why we don't say Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, we say King. We think though, we know God, you're the King. That's the way we act. But on the inside, God, you are existence. On the outside, we act as members of the kingdom. But on the inside, we know that every moment is this love relationship between me and Hashem. Every moment is like chas and kala, is like a husband and wife. There's very deep intimacy. So we only think that, Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. That's the world of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. That's the inner world. That's Rabbi Shimon going into the cave. There's a secret universe of Rabbi Shimon, of going and, so to speak, hiding, that inner realm, where the light of Rabbi Shimon comes from, the deep desires, the tears, the yearning of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. And that's really the world where we start to have a real relationship with Hashem, from that inner world. Even though, of course, in the externals, there's me and the king, but it's still separate. In the world that we're looking for, the world of Rabbi Shimon is a world that gets more and more intimate, because I realize that everything is an opportunity for that unification with Hashem. That's the world of Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. Now, what does Yud-Kei Vav-Kei mean? We say it so often. So the Arizal says that Yud-Kei Vav-Kei is referring to three different consciousness. The first part is Haya. Haya means God as He exists before He created the world. That's why there was a time before creation where it was just God, the infinite light of God. That's Haya. Hoive is God now after creation. God with a creation, with finite creation. And what's Yeh? Will be
after Mashiach.
When Mashiach comes, or the world to come, after we reunify inside of God, but now we're aware of it. So there's God before creation, then there's this phase that we're up to now, and this phase is a very short phase. In the time frame of infinity, a few thousand years is not so long. Then there's the phase after the final redemption, which is the world of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and Mashiach, where we reintegrate into the infinity. But now we're aware and we're conscious because of the work that we did now during this phase of becoming masters of this perfection through Torah and mitzvahs, that we reintegrate into the infinity and now be aware of it. Yes?
When we integrate at the time after Mashiach comes, right?
I'm so excited for it, yes.
Yeah, so it's very soon.
Amen.
We're going to be saying we'll be aware, but like when I just like to draw a parallel to like our physical realities, like when you just are, like when you're like in a total state of just like being, like people call it the flow state, or whatever. Like you're not thinking about yourself. You don't like you just are existing, doing whatever, like working or something, or just you're learning. and you just are totally immersed, and there's nothing else but whatever
It.
right in front of
Not
you.
even thinking of yourself.
You're not yet. You don't even exist. It's just whatever you're occupied with. But like you, at that point, you're not like conscious of yourself. You just are in that state.
So there's an element of that. There's an element like that, like the flow state that you described.
Even more flow state. It'd be like more being.
You're going to be, so if you've ever been to...
How are you able to like be aware of that? Like if we're not even aware of ourselves here in this world, we're in like this finite flow state, then in after Mashiach, how are we going to be able to be aware of that when it's even more?
According to how many mitzvahs you did, the mitzvahs give you a certain identity. And the analogy that's used is that God's light is an infinite light. Imagine you have a light that comes, if I were just to say, can you appreciate light? I'd say it's very nice, but it's hard to appreciate it in its full glory. But if I take a vase, a crystal vase, and I shine the light through the crystal vase, so what comes out the other side? A beautiful, sparkles, colors. So, was there anything inside? Are there colors inside the vase? No. Where are the colors?
In the light.
In the light. So the vase is something or it's nothing? Is it something?
It's how we get through the lights.
The vase is something that has the ability to pull out something even more beautiful inside the light. That's going to be our role. To the degree that we became these vases, these vessels, which come through Torah and mitzvahs, we're going to see that through us, we revealed more, if you will, a deeper secret of God's light and unity that came through the creation. But it's all God. It's all God's light. But we saw somehow through us. That's the identity part. We're just lost in it. But we realized that we were a part of it, but we're dissolved in it at the same time. This is one of the great secrets, that we're going to be dissolved in the infinity and have a certain identity because of what we did now in this world through Torah and mitzvahs. The only thing that gives you that identity is Torah and mitzvahs. Specifically mitzvahs. Mitzvahs in the world to come are called your clothing, and Torah is called your food. Meaning what you're going to enjoy for eternity, so to speak, is the food. But what you're going to have in order to bear the light of it is your mitzvahs. The chalukah derabbanan. This is all the word of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, that he's trying to give us Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. He's trying to give us the inner dimension of going deeper, of thinking deeper, of being more profound. Not just a relationship with God, of, okay, God, you told me what to do, so I guess I'll do it. Which many people in humanity think, God has a bunch of requests, I have to acquiesce, or I'll be sent to that place where it gets really hot, so I guess I better do it. So that's all Aleph, Dal, Nun, Yud. That's all that, this God, he's the king. And in that case, not even a king, he's more of a tyrant. Ki Lashem ha-melucha moishel ba'goyim, we say. On Rosh Hashanah, we proclaim that God is the king. What's unique about God being a king and not a tyrant? What's the difference?
The benevolence.
If a tyrant comes into the city, how does he take rule of that place?
Through force.
Through force, whether the people like it or not. How is a king different? The true king. The true king is the one that's appointed by the people. If a king is not crowned by the people, he's not a king, he's a tyrant. It's very important. Ki Lashem ha-melucha, that Klal Yisrael, we appoint you the king Hashem. Umoishel ba'goyim. And there's many, many nations of the world that reject you. So Hashem says, I'm going to rule over you because that's the reality. I create all existence. Either you can choose to proclaim me the Melech, or I'll be a tyrant. For us, we proclaim God the King. But then there's still, and that's beautiful, that's what we do Rosh Hashanah. But then there's still me and the King. The word Rabbi Shimon says, but go deeper into the love relationship, that there's nothing but us. There's only one. We should be zoicha to this, that the light of Rabbi Shimon should shine brightly inside of us. The light of Yud Kei Vav Kei, the light of Hashem's existence of Haya Hoyviyeh. And with that, the light of Mashiach Tzidkenu B'mehera V'Amen. Amen.
Amen.
Kol Tov.